Welcome to the Heart-Centered Sales Leader podcast on webtalkradio.net. I'm your Heart-Centered Sales Leader and host, Connie Whitman. So thanks for joining us today. Now, I hope every week as you tune in that you feel my mission that I am going to change that word sales. That's this icky, sleazy thing that I really want you to change that paradigm of thinking so that you're coming from a place of love, care, and respect. And as soon as we deviate from that, we're doing it wrong. Now, to help you on your mindset journey to do that little paradigm shift, on my website, whitmanassociates.com/CSA, I have my free communication style assessment that my partner and I have developed. It gives you insight into your superpowers, but it also gives you insight into your blind spots. And guess what? We all have blind spots. So again, take it, whitmanassociates.com/CSA, free, check it out, and maybe learn something new about yourself. My motivational quote today is by John Maxwell. And John says, leaders become great not because of their power, but because of their ability to empower others. Now, when you think of the word leadership, what comes to your mind? Is it about having earned a title of, senior vice president, SVP, EVP, CEO, or is it more about my quote of empowering others? Now, effective leadership is certainly more important now than ever with COVID and just the changes that are happening globally. Well, today I'm super excited to share my amazing guest and friend, James Vaccaro, with you. Now, Jim is the chairman, president and CEO of Manasquan Bank. It's a $1.9 billion mutual bank, and it was founded in 1874. So the folks there are doing something right to be around for so long. Now, the majority of Jim's career has been as a leader within the banking profession, with more than 35 years of experience in the industry. Now, he's also a leader in both civic and philanthropic organizations, and Jim is the member of the board of trustees of RWJ Barnabas Health, it's the hospitals around here, and a member of the board and former chairman of Monmouth Medical, again, a local hospital. He is also a member and board of trustees of Monmouth University, where I got my MBA, and he is the past chair and the board of directors of the New Jersey Bankers Association, and he still remains on that board. He does a lot out there. Okay, in 2013, Jim was the recipient of, but there's more, right? The commercial, but wait, there's more. 2013, Jim was the recipient of the Monmouth University Distinguished Business Leaders Award, and in 2007, the Long Branch Chamber of Commerce honored Jim with the Louis Lubetti, I don't know if I said that right, Community Service Award. I can go on and on. He's amazing. We have him here today, and I'm really excited to get to share him with you. So, Jim, thanks so much for coming on. I do know you're busy.
Connie, thank you very much. Thank you for having me. Thank you for all the wonderful work that you do in the marketplace. And Connie has been kind enough to partner with our organization. Yeah. We're sort of at the beginnings of a journey, and it's going to be a long journey as life is, particularly in the professional field. So we look forward to coming out at the other end of this and moving forward with this and continue to engage and build the culture of this wonderful place that I have the privilege of leading, called Manasquan Bank.
Yeah, and so, Jim, my first question, and my listeners are going to love this. Now, you'd never call yourself, when I've been in events with you and they introduce you, and he never says he's the CEO. How do you usually introduce yourself? Because I love it.
So a couple different ways. One is I always talk to myself as the chief evangelist. The person that really needs to carry the baton for the organization. And again, I have the privilege of being the spokesperson. I also remember when I was first hired a number of years ago, I talked to the chairman of the board at the time, and I said, I'm also the chief discomfort officer. and the reason I say that is that I never want to get comfortable in my job. I think that discomfort is a great way to start each and every day. It opens up a whole lot of different opportunities, because I think if you become too comfortable, you become complacent. And complacency breeds mediocrity. And unfortunately, I think there's been industries, and particularly financial services industries, has sort of devolved to mediocrity. And at Manasquan Bank, we will never settle for mediocrity. We try continuous improvement each and every day. I always tell everybody I wake up every morning with a blank canvas and let's figure out if we can reinvent ourselves.
Yeah, it's true. You know, the song Natasha Bedingfield's "Tomorrow's Unwritten." So, you know, even if you messed up today or you weren't your best, you weren't feeling well, whatever it is, tomorrow's unwritten and you could do a better job. And I love how you said we settle for that mediocrity. Good truly is the enemy of great, because, you know, things are good. I'm not going to do anything to change because things are good. As soon as things get uncomfortable or bad, right, if you want to use the negative word, but as soon as things become uncomfortable or they're not working the way I want them to, I got to change something. That's when we try to change and become better. Why can't we become better every day? That's and I love the discomfort one is the one that I've heard you use, and it makes me giggle. But on the same token, I think, yeah, man, he gets it. As soon as you feel discomfort, you're growing, you're becoming better, you're servicing your clients better, you're becoming a better employee, whatever. So I love that, the discomfort officer. That was the one for me. I'm glad you shared it. Now, another question. Why do you think truly, as the CEO of an organization, why do you think it's key to be part of the culture or develop the culture of the organization and do it without micromanaging? So create the culture, but not be like, do this, do this, do this. Talk about that for us.
So to a great degree, my job is to set the tone of the organization. And then what we need to do is build competencies throughout every single portion of the organization, and then empower people to make good, effective decisions. And so I'm going to steal thunder from a bank that no longer exists, but almost to the point where it says it takes 2 people to say no and only 1 to say yes. So people in the industry, in the financial service industry, are fearful of making a mistake. And I always tell them, life's not defined of the mistake you make, it's how you respond to it.
That's right.
And so we need to make sure we empower people to make good decisions for the benefit of the organization and for the benefit of our stakeholders. And we always define our stakeholders as our depositors, our borrowers, our communities at large, and our employees.
Absolutely.
And if you look at that as the greater good, the larger community of who we are when we define the organization, I think if you make your decisions and we empower people to be able to make a positive impact in the organization and then recognize that impact and give them the latitude to do that, that makes sense. The worst thing I ever hear, and you hear it all the time, particularly in the bank industry, we do it that way because we've always done it that way. That is the absolute worst answer. That tells me that you have no creativity, you have no imagination, and when I don't want that's not the kind of leader that we're trying to nurture within this organization.
Yeah, you just made me think of a funny story. We've always done it that way. There's a story that it was a holiday and the mom is in the kitchen making a ham. And she cuts the front of the ham and the back of the ham, puts it in the pan, puts it in the oven. And the young daughter says to the mom, "Why do you cut the sides of the ham?" And the daughter says, "I don't know. Go ask your grandmother." And so the little girl goes in and says to the grandmother, "Mom said that she cuts the front of the ham and the back of the ham. Why?" The grandmother says, "I don't know. Go ask great grandma." So the little girl goes over to great grandma and says, "Mom did cutting the front of the back of the ham. Why did you do that?" The great grandmother says, "Oh, because my pan was too small."
There you go.
It's a great story. It's exactly what you're saying. We've always done it that way.
There's no doubt. About a number of years ago, I started a strategic planning process, and I gave it a title, and the title was "Unlock the Pens." And everybody said, "What does that mean? Unlock the pens?" So I said, it was a number of years ago. I was given a tour of one of our banking facilities, one of our branches, to a bunch of 5th graders, and I showed them the teller count, and we showed them the vault, and we showed them everything. And after I said, "Any questions?" the little boy in the back raises his hand. He said, "I have a question." I said, "Yes." He said, "How come the vault is open, but the pens are locked?" So think about that. Just think about the imagery of that. The vault is open, but we have chains on all the pens, so nobody can take them. And that's the mindset of a traditional financial institution. So the whole idea of unlocking the pens, unlocking the potential, make people think, give them the opportunity, give them the tools so they can succeed. So unlocking the pens is sort of the symbolism of having this boundaryless society that we should be living in.
Awesome story. So what did you do with the pens?
So I took a clipper and I unlocked the pens, and I said, every single one of those pens has our name on it. I can't tell you the value of them getting 1,000 of those things into the marketplace.
Simple little shift. And see, it's those aha moments like, why didn't we do that sooner? Because we always did it this way.
Lock the pens.
We've always locked the pens, which is so funny because they're what, like 2 cents? Yet we have to lock the pens, but the vault is open. See, and that's, Jim, I'm cracking up too because I love kids, right? From the mouths of babes comes the truth, and we just have to stop and listen. Yeah, I love it. I love it. All right, so you mentioned that you're about empowerment, right, and dispersing that authority and the decision making within Manasquan Bank. How do you do that without micromanaging?
So what I do is I tell each of our managers and each of our people, look, you manage your own discrete business. Understand that your decisions have an influence on everybody else in the organization. So here's what I want you to do. I want you to think about when you make a decision, just think about how it influences the organization in your department, but also throughout the organization. I will back you up. If you need some advice, come in, let's talk about it. But you need to make that decision, and you need to understand the risk reward of that decision. So the entire thought process, so if I tell you what to do, you never have to think about what to do. If I tell you what to do, you never have to think about the risks and or the rewards of what you're doing. What I want you to do is I want you to independently think about that. You're all very smart people. You all know what the goal is for the organization. In fact, in the most recent iteration of our strategic plan, the goal is pretty simple. It is a critical balance between mission and metrics. So mission drives metrics. The mission of this organization is to be the best community banking enterprise that anybody has ever seen, from a customer service perspective, from a reputation perspective, from a branding perspective. And then what we need to do is we need to make sure that we adopt all fiscally responsible policies to make sure we can deliver on that promise. And each of you as managers and each of you as supervisors have the authority to do that.
Simple.
It's not rocket science. I measure my productivity as to how many interruptions I have during the day of people coming in, because it's an open door policy. They know that at any given point in the day they can come in and talk to me. I'm not going to tell them what to do, but I may guide them.
Yeah, get them to think, because but isn't that an important component of the puzzle? You know, it's like the story. If I go and I fish for you and I feed you, when I die, who's feeding you? You have to teach people how to go out and fish, right? That's the important piece. It was funny, you were saying that customer service, right? And I said that in the intro or at the beginning of our conversation. If we don't have customers, right, we don't exist, right? Your business is going to fold up. And the journey that we're on to some extent together, or my piece of the puzzle within your strategic plan. At the end of the day, every client or prospect that sits in front of you, I call them the objectionless buyer. They want to, they have a need, they want to buy. You, the individual, have to have the skills, the wherewithal, the brains, the connection, that humanness to break through. And there's 5 logical barriers. If I give you the key, I become the master key, and I unlock all 5 of those doors. At the end, the objectionless buyer's waiting for me. We have to deliver those tools to help people unlock the door. And that's what you do, in essence, with the leadership piece. Here, every one of you, and here's the other thing I just want to share with everyone, Jim. People are clamoring to work in Jim's bank, in Manasquan Bank. So why is that the reputation, here in New Jersey? Because it's that empowerment, that leadership. So he's saying, you're here, and I'm going to empower you to unlock the key to become the best leader you can be. That's part of that strategic plan that you're unfolding this year. It's simple, and yet it's not, right, Jim? You know what I mean?
It's very simple. And so not only that, Connie, so we always tell our people, every one of my colleagues, I tell them that you need to treat your customers with dignity, respect, and professionalism.
100%.
And I also tell my customers, you need to treat each and every one of my colleagues with dignity, respect, and professionalism. And I can tell you, there's been more than a handful of times where I felt that our employees were being abused by customers. And I get on the phone and I say, we very much appreciate your business, but let me tell you, we're terminating our relationship.
Yep.
Because that's not the way we operate. That's not the way we treat you. And that's not our expectation of how you treat our people. And that's just sincere, because that's the way people should be treated.
Absolutely.
When every one of my 220 or 210 colleagues knows that I have their back on those kinds of things, it just, again, it's part of that empowerment, makes them feel good, makes them understand that we are there to protect them as much as anything else. And look, they spend a lot of time here. They probably spend more time here than they do at home.
I bet.
So if we can create an environment that's nurturing, one that's educational, one that's supporting, one that's empowering, one that's engaging, one that recognizes their contribution. What else? And then one that understands what their aspirations are. It's interesting, again, because not that long ago, one of the people you're dealing with directly, I sat down with her maybe 5 or 6 years ago, and I said, where do you want to be in 5 years? And she said, I've been doing this for 20 years. Nobody's ever asked me that before. And so that's really the question. What do you want to do in 5 years? And sometimes I'll tell people, you know what? You've outgrown us. And that's the best compliment I could ever get.
Sure. Yeah, and I think that we're afraid to have those conversations as if I can't deliver what you might need. Where really people want to be heard, Jen, right? They want to be, and I love it, you said valued. And the other thing, I just want to step back when you said that you hold your customers accountable, and I think that's really important as well. Because my intro said, if you're coming from the sleazy part, you're doing it wrong. You should be coming from love, care, and respect. Right. But you have to respect yourself as well. And you have to hold people accountable to not treat you disrespectfully, because you know what? It's crap. We shouldn't have to take that kind of behavior. So kudos to you but this is why you're my people, right? In my brain. My Heart-Centered Sales Leader podcast, because I'm heart-centered. You're heart-centered. And we think that saying that and that vulnerability makes us weak leaders. And the opposite is true. It makes you one of the most powerful leaders I think we have in New Jersey as far as the banks go, right? I know New Jersey marketplace. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, I appreciate it very much. So one of the other things that we do, so I'll give you another example. So Universal Banker, we used to call them tellers. We call them Universal Bankers. They're wonderful people, front line. They really make a very big difference. Face of the franchise.
They do.
There are times where a customer comes and said, "I'd like to do this," and that Universal Banker will say, "No, I can't do it." And then that customer may call me, which is fine. And I look at it, and I occasionally, rarely, will say, "That's okay," and I'll call the teller and the Universal Banker. I'll say, "That's okay." And I also tell the customer, you need to call that Universal Banker before I say it's okay, and tell them, thank you for doing your job. And my explanation to that person is that you understand the transaction. My job is to understand the relationship.
Yes.
So there's sometimes that the relationship decision will override the transaction decision. That's not your responsibility. That's mine.
That's right.
I just want to say thank you for doing your job.
Yeah. Because they're protecting the client at the end from fraud or whatever it is. They have a very serious job.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah.
So this year you're starting this huge objective within your organization. You're really, really digging in and defining that culture, expectations, and really leveling the playing field and empowering your team, I think, to the highest level. Why do you think this is so important for you as a bank? But why now? Was there something pivotal for you?
I think two things. One is it's really going to define who we are for the foreseeable future. I don't know if that's the next 5, 10, 20, 30, 40 years, whatever that may be. It's really
Wonderful.
going to define who we are. Why now? I think that a lot of this was organic. We did it internally. We're at a place where we need to get to the next level, and we understand that there is wonderful professional expertise in the marketplace to help us get there. It's 2 years in a row we were voted the 43rd best bank to work for in the country. We're extraordinarily proud of that, but that's not good enough. That means there's 42 imposters ahead of us that we're going to have to catch up with in some fashion. So 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 one of the things that we're smart enough to know, we're smart enough to know what we know, and smart enough to know when we need professional assistance. So what we did is we went out and sought out the best of the best, and I have the opportunity to speak with one of those people right now.
Aw, oh, Jim, and I didn't even pay him to say that. Thank you. I love you for saying that. And again, though, it goes back to what I said about the heart-centered, right? I resonate with you, you resonate with me, because I don't take every client on. If philosophically they're not coming from the same values that I have for my life, I can't do business with people like that, because it's just off. And then they're not going to get the best of me, because I feel like I'm lying to their employees. And that's just not a good place to start. So I want to...
It's about being genuine.
100%.
Being yourself.
Yeah.
You know, I talked to Cindy last week. We had, after the first 2 days, I called her that night and I said, just how things go. I'm curious, did it go well? She wrote me an email and said, I've been doing this for a long time. No CEO's ever called me the day after our first training class and asked me how things went. Well, I don't understand that. I mean, so a lot of people hire people and say, okay, now it's yours, right? And you need to move forward. It's doomed for failure.
It is.
It's ours.
It is.
We'll figure it out together. The roadmap is one that's going to have a lot of forks in it. And, we may not always take the right one. And sometimes the greatest lessons that we learn are by taking the wrong one and, refocusing on our destination.
Yeah, it's failing forward, right? If you learned from it, it wasn't really the wrong turn, because you learned something priceless from that event. Right. It was funny, Jim, and I'll just share with everyone, Cindy Rowan is a colleague. She's doing the leadership piece, and I'm doing the service sales piece for Manasquan Bank this year. And I'm going to make you laugh. So that night, Cindy called me, and I knew she had trained, at your bank, starting the process. And I said, is everything okay? And she said, Jim called me. And I go, is everything okay? Like, did we totally mess up, what we're delivering? She said, no. She was shocked, by the way. She said, no, he called me because he wanted to see how it went. And did we need anything from him? I'm like, God, we need to clone that man. Honest to God, that was the conversation. But I want to go back. Yeah,
it's natural to call her, find out.
But see, that's for you. It's natural, but most aren't out there. And the other thing you said that I want to circle back to, that you made me kind of giggle inside. There were 42 imposters in front of us. We're catching up to you. Beware.
There's no doubt in my mind. This is last man standing. Yeah.
I love it. But here's again, being serious. To chip away and get to, the be number one is part of the matrix, because I do believe we put things in motion, change behaviors and all those things, right? What's the result though? We have to get the result at the end. So I love these little tangible things that most companies would say, we could never be number one. Why not? You can, if you do it logically, and you empower and you teach and you grow and you make people uncomfortable, all the things we're talking about. Why can't you become number one? I love it. I think it's a great destination.
No doubt.
Yeah, and I'm going to help you get there. Okay, so now we also talked about your bank being literally, guys, people are clamoring to get into the bank, and you have to truly know someone, because as soon as a position's open, you have 10 people that are quality people that could step into those positions. So it's not like I'm saying falsehoods here. But why do you think that level of employee retention, and again, that desire, the word on the street that you're such a great bank, what do you think? Take it from the perspective, how can other people, other CEOs, executives, for instance, listening, how can they get their organization to be the one clamoring and to say, we have our sights on number one? What do you think that was the magic for you?
I think the overall creation of an environment where people can make a positive impact and be recognized for that impact and rewarded for that impact. Everybody likes an attaboy. I mean, and it's really very, very important. True. I manage by walking around. I see everybody in this building every single day when they're here. So creating an environment where my job, to a great degree, is an equipment manager. I have to give them the equipment so they can succeed in the marketplace. And then giving them the ability to make good decisions empower them, give them the ability to have a positive impact, and people want to feel good about what they do. And so if you create that environment that permeates throughout the organization, it's pretty simple, because it's no longer just going to work from 9 to 5 and picking up a paycheck. You not only pick up a competitive paycheck, but you make a difference.
And you feel good. And here's the other thing, as humans, I think we want to be something bigger than ourselves. We want to make an impression. So whether that's an impression on my team, right, as a leader, you're the teller, the universal banker, it's an impression on the customer that they walk out thinking, what would I have done? That person protected my assets, or, gave me such a good recommendation on how I can make more money to save for retirement or save on my mortgage, right? Like having each other's back, it just matters. And it sounds so simple, and yet there's so much great juice and meat when we talk about having each other's back and empowerment. I have a friend, he's a CEO in Maine of a lumber company, one of the oldest lumber companies in the country, Hancock Lumber. But anyway, about 10 years ago, he got a voice disorder where literally, Jim, he couldn't speak. So he speaks so it's very difficult. Well, and initially it was painful. Now he's the CEO. He's supposed to be making all the decisions. So people were coming to him and he was in so much pain. So he started saying, what do you think? What do you think? And he said, and miraculously what ended up happening is they were the subject matter experts of their division, whether it was shipping, handling, sales, whatever. And they would answer and he would think, well, that's a better answer than I would have given, right? He kind of he was forced to take the step back to empower his people. He's written a book called The Seventh Power. But here's the coolest part of the story. So that was 10 years ago. So over the past 10 years, he's truly shifted his whole organization structure to this disbursement of power. This past year, even with COVID, in that 1 year, he has made more, the past decade, and the company's been around since the mid-1800s, I want to say. This past decade, since he's lost his voice, his company has made more than all of the other hundreds of years that the business has been in. This isn't by accident, right? Now, for him, it was by accident because he had the disorder. But it's the same concept of what you're saying. If we can empower... They're the subject matter experts. They know the customers by name. You do too, because you're hands-on. But, right? Yeah. Why aren't we empowering them and dispersing the power?
So when somebody comes to my office and said, I have a question, I said, I prefer that you came in with an answer. Seriously, because
I love it.
Don't use me as a crutch, right? So if you want to talk about and talk through it, that's fine. But I'm the one that's supposed to be asking the questions. You're supposed to be providing the answers, and we'll give you the tools that you can do so.
That's right. But you also give them the authority by saying, I'm not going to give you. You've trained them that I'm not going to give you the answer. I'm a sounding board. I'll give you guidance, right, if you need that help. But you become part of the solution, not just I have a problem.
Well, the other part about that is, and if you make a mistake, it's okay.
Yeah, everything is fixable, right? Everything is fixable.
No, absolutely. And I always tell you, like I said before, life's not defined to the mistakes you make, it's how you respond to them.
Absolutely. I have another question for you. What would you say, because you've been in this industry for a mighty long time, you've been a CEO for a long time. What's the biggest lesson that you've learned as the CEO? Not because I'm sure you've learned lessons along the way, but as a CEO, because again, I want people to duplicate your strategy and the way you think.
So if you really have an open architecture within the organization, bad news does not age well. So if you have an issue, let's tackle it right away and let's remedy it right away. Because over a period of time, it'll fester, it'll get worse. And so you have to create an environment where people are not afraid to talk to you about something that went wrong. Because we will figure out the best way to fix it. And 99% of the time, we're going to turn that into a net positive. So if there is bad news, make sure that we get it out quick, make sure that we're fully transparent, make sure that everybody knows about it, and make sure that we're absolutely honest about it. We make mistakes. We're not perfect. And the admission of the mistakes and then figuring out how to make it right is really very important. But never try to put something in your desk drawer because you don't want to face it.
Yeah, vulnerability. See, again, I think truly being a great leader and a visionary is you have to show that vulnerability and think, I don't have all the answers. I'm not perfect. Although Jim, you and I are pretty close to perfect. Just saying.
So more than I.
I don't know about that, but right. It's that vulnerability, and I oftentimes think that leaders, executives, they think, I can't show I'm vulnerable. I'm supposed to have all the answers. That's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard.
It's absurd. We're all vulnerable, and vulnerable makes us human, and then it also creates a drive for us to get better.
I think so too. Yeah. So the last question I always ask my guests: what advice do you have for executives that or really even people that are climbing the ladder, right? As they gain more experience and they're able to become those leaders, so they could start to create the vision for themselves of what kind of leader they want to be. What advice would you give so that we really can build this because we're talking about a dynamic culture that fosters leadership as well as that customer journey, right? We're always thinking about the customer. What would your advice be?
I think it's remember why you are where you are. Think about that, and if you break that out, is we all have a purpose. And that purpose is not a title. That purpose is not an office. That purpose is a much higher purpose. It is to energize, to motivate, to empower an organization. So if you remember why you're doing what you're doing, the power of why, right?
Yeah.
Not how, but the power of why. So, a lot of organizations talk about this is what we do, and this is how we do it. If you start with, this is why I do it, the how and the what come a lot easier.
It's true, because the vision becomes clear. The why is what gets you out of bed in the morning, right? That why is what inspires you to live your life. The why is what you bring or what you want to bring to the table, right? To become the best version of yourself. But yeah, the why is the most important thing. It's funny, I do an exercise in training, and one of the questions I ask people is, what motivates you? And, you go around the room, people say attaboys, the recognition from their boss or the customer. Some will say money. And Jim, I giggle every time, and I always say, I'm going to come back to you. And you finish going around, and then they think, what did I do? And I say, here's the reality. You don't wake up in the morning and say, I'm going to make $100 today. That is, I don't believe that's your first thought. You may wake up and think, I'm going to help, Mr. So-and-so today. Or, oh, good, I'm working today. I'm going to be able to buy my kids new shoes for school. Or they can play the sport they want. I have to do for my family. I'm going to pay for college. We need money, right? Money's energy. It's just, it allows us to live our life. But you don't wake up in the morning saying, how much money am I going to make? And if you do, this is what I tell them, if you do, wow, your life is going to be long and hard, because money, right? Money can't be the motive. Yes, we all need to make money.
No doubt about it. Money's important. But think about, this is really what defines people. How you measure wealth. It's not the money part. It's how you measure wealth.
Yeah. And
wealth is a full, a well-rounded professional career, a personal career, doing the right thing, trying to help people and the like. And if you look at all of that, and so I'm probably one of the wealthiest people in the world because of I'm privileged to be here and to lead this organization. It's not how many commas are behind the zeros. It's about how you measure the impact of what you can do for an awful lot of people in the world every day. And so I also call about the incumbency to give back. And so I'm fortunate to sit on a whole lot of not-for-profit boards. And the reason is because I think it's really extraordinarily important for people to do so. We are blessed. We are extraordinarily fortunate. And although, time is a precious commodity, 10 hours or 20 hours a month is not a lot of time to give to somebody that may need it.
100%. And again, that we're blessed. And in this country, I think we're extremely blessed that for us to sometimes pause and stop looking at what we don't have really take a pulse on all of the wonderful blessings we do have, right? Poor Texas with
Sure.
that they didn't have. They felt the cold and all those things, but a lot of colleagues that I have, they were posting the things they were grateful for. That we don't have this, but my friend brought me in, or I was able to go to, or a client opened their door to me, and these are the blessings that are priceless, and we can't forget about that. So I love. Our time is up, Jim, but can I tell you, I really can talk to you all day. I think you're amazing. I think you're one of my favorite humans on this planet, by the way. And I'm truly humbled to be able to be part of your organization and help create that dynamic, that number one, right? We're getting to that number one.
Yeah.
And I'm truly privileged to be part of that journey with you, and honored, because I truly enjoy you. I enjoy the people that I'm working with in your organization. So I have to say thank you for that opportunity as well.
Connie, thank you very much.
Truly a pleasure.
Again, we cherish the partnership. Look forward to a long, enduring one.
Agree.
This is, so the journey results in, some people think, a destination. I think the journey results in additional journeys.
Yeah. Again, the turns. That's what makes life fun, man. Let's find those turns, right?
Absolutely.
So, guys, I do think you should check out the bank. They're doing amazing things. Products and services are off the charts. They really are going to be the number one player out there. Go to manasquanbank.com. I will post that in the show notes so you guys could find it. Check them out. Jim, can I give your email, or do you prefer I don't? Okay. So Jim's email, if you are an executive out there and you'd like to collaborate and see how Jim does things, because we learn from each other, go to Vaccaro, and it's Vaccaro at manasquanbank.com. Please check him out. Reach out to him, become part of his community as well. You see, he's philanthropic and willing to teach and help. We're all here to help. Also, if you need more Connie in your life, which I hope you do, please go to my website at whitmanassociates.com. I have so many free resources and things out there for you guys. I truly am here to help you navigate whatever it is in your career that you're looking to do. So please check that out as well. Jim, thank you again. I know you're busy. I so appreciate having you on.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it very much. Have a wonderful and safe weekend, everybody, please.
Yes, absolutely. And you guys, I hope you will join me weekly as we question, build, and discover together that growing your client base, growing your business, and being the heart-centered sales leader or heart-centered leader that you're destined to be is easier than you think. Thank you so much for tuning in to the Heart-Centered Sales Leader podcast with me, your heart-centered sales leader and host, Connie Whitman. Have a wonderful week, everyone. Open your mind to the client relationship, to the organizational difference that you can make. And like Jim just said, I'm excited and I'm honored to have you on this journey with me. And I will see you all next week with another amazing guest. Jim, thank you again.
Bye-bye, Connie.
Bye.